Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Daily Tip Show here on the Inspired Business TV channel. In today's episode, we're going to look at the business investor mindset and the top 10 investor tips. Now in here, we're going to deconstruct and look at those top 10 tips that investors use when they're analysing a business. And more importantly, if you want investment in your business, what and how do you converse with an investor to know what he or she will be looking for? My name is Gary Setterfield, and with my co-host, Mr. Sukhi Wahiwala, we're going to look at these top 10 tips.
Hello team, how are you, the Inspired Tribe, and thank you very much for supporting us as always. Please drop us a like and immediately please subscribe and that other bell icon, get that in so you can get all of the latest episodes. This series is solely designed, the Daily Tips Show is a resource center which we're discussing tips within business and within life, but in a bite-sized chunk. Back to you, Gary.
Thanks, Sukhi. And so what we're going to do today is, Sukhi, I'd like some help with what do you as an investor look for? What are those top 10 tips that you go through in your mind or when you're assessing a business plan? And remember, folks, we will be having the power tip roundup at the end. So if you miss anything going through, I will cover it and highlight it at the end for you. So Sukhi, over to you.
Thank you, Gary. And so it's really simple. This is the same information that I actually really use to invest in companies, and also the same lecture structure that I share with all of the universities, with a number of universities actually, Cambridge University being one, Brunel being another, East London University, just to mention a few, and it goes on and on and on without boring everybody. So step one, really, really simple. If I was an investor, I would want to see the actual functionality and clarity of vision. The clarity of vision with the person who's directing or actually spearheading the business idea. And I want to see how clear they are within themselves with their actual product that they're offering and the actual clarity of where they're going with the product. For example, it's not just a 1 minute basically, fixing a solution, fixing a problem A, and then moving straight to problem B and C, and not actually knowing exactly which one solution they're actually offering. And if I was an investor, this actual episode, this actual step here would assist me to get ultra clear on every single minute that I'm spending, every single penny, every single hour that I'm spending on the business model goes direct towards a particular set outcome. Step two, if I can carry on, Gary, if you don't mind. Thank you. And so step two would be the clarity in the product and offering. This means very simply, as an investor, I need to understand that if you're being invested in and you've got a business model, let's say if it was an application online, like a business application on iOS, Apple, or Android, as in Google. Now, the principle would be, or Google Play as they call it. So in principle, the clarity would be, is whatever the offer is giving, so if it's supplying, let's say, a timekeeping application, I need to make sure that you absolutely understand your product inside out. So as an investor, I need to quiz you to ask, okay, so what exactly are you fixing? What is the real solution or the problem that you're creating the solution to? And basically, as an individual, if you were the invested, I would love you to be able to dialogue very clear, succinctly, but also about the various options you did have in front of yourself, but how focused you are with your actual product and why you believe in it. Does that help, Gary?
Excellent. So there's two tips. There must be more, Sukhi. What would be your third then?
Well, let's just quote a very simple understanding for step three. And this is basically, or tip three, whichever you want to call it. If you look at one of the most successful investors on this planet, his name is Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, or Berkshire, my apologies. So the principle with this is that one of the key things that he shared, and I'm actually 7 generations, not comparative at all, but I'm 7 generations in business with our lineage of our world. as the Wahiwala family. So one of the key things we look at is the team. And his quote would be, is I invest in the team and not in the business, because the business idea can easily evolve and morph. But if the team, if I don't have my assurity, my belief, my trust within that team that they can deliver, then that is where the stop would come. So as an investor, what I'd like to see is a document that clarifies the psychometric, the DISC. And if you want to hop back, we'll put a link in the description below, and we'll be talking about episode, I believe it's episode 5 and episode 7 of the Daily Tip shows, where we talk about the DISC psychometric as well. So the principle would be very, very simply to explain to me that you've got the right person, right job. So you're not actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zones and knowledge centers and natural behavior, the inside natural behavior of how I want to see the world and what I'd love to do. And I'm not pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So the principle would be is, as an investor, I'd like to see who is the managing director, and I'd like to see the psychometric DISC profile of that individual, so that I can see that they are rightly aligned and assigned to that particular job role. That if they're what we classify as an extroverted energy, that are not focused or stuck on trying to do what we call introverted activities, such as accounts and finances and paperwork. Does that make sense? Now, there's nothing wrong with either or. All I'm saying is that match yourself to the right action. Now, here's a little caveat if you are as the invested. If you actually don't naturally fit the investment leadership, for example, as a director, no big deal. You've just got to know that you would like to, in an adapted state, and when you watch those episodes, you'll see in an adapted state how you can actually deliver that particular job role as a managing director or as the finance director. If it's the extroverted is managing director, introverted would be somebody who's a finance director or within the finances of the business. Does that help a little bit there, Gary?
Brilliant. So we've looked at the vision, we've looked at the offering, we've looked at the team. What would be next? What's the next area?
Well, one of the key things, you could say, tip 4 would be that as an investor, I would like to see the director or the lead person, the owner of the concept, the investment, their investment. And I'm not talking about their sweat value. I'm talking about actually R&D. How can I invest in your company if you haven't invested in it financially yourself? Does that make sense? So the principle of this is that you need to evidence where you've actually paid for things. And in some cases, you may have to prove what we call your seed capital. And I want to see a document and say, I went to all my family and friends, or maybe 10 members of my family, and got £100 off them each to substantiate the original seed investment. And now I have this product to show you. Do you understand that? So that's not just basically, I've got a great idea, I need all your money, I want all your risk, and I still want to own the company and give you 10%. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? Does that make sense? So as an invested individual, you would be looking very simply at something very similar. You would be looking at ways to ensure and demonstrate that you have actually done what you believe in. So your belief has to be transferred to the investor, and you have to show and prove that you went round and you really put a lot of effort into it and you've got good timeline. Well, the rest of the other 6 points I'm going to cover are going to really synchronize with this moment.
Thanks, Sukhi. I mean, surely that's not enough, though, to understand the financials, just looking at what the directors put in. So where do you look at financials here?
This is actually the next point, Gary. Spot on. So yeah, tip 5 would be now for us to look very clearly as the director's investment, but I now want to know, kind of like you could say a schedule, but more investment about your detailed expenses of what you're actually going to do. As an investor, if I can see that you want to raise £100,000 for a business model or a business startup, but 60,000 of that is £5,000 as a salary paid to you, and only £40,000 is actually going into the business for any kind of evolution, logically, I'm going to be looking at, check please, getting out of here. So the principal conversation is, in this detailed analysis, you need to have shown and described or evidenced every single penny. Where is it going? What is it going to be doing? For example, may I share? You may say £500 for the first prototyping, of which that means it'll go to the prototyping company. and you will probably show a quotation. Does that make sense? So then you might turn around and say, well, actually, we've got the first prototype, so now we need to test it. So we've got this to be done, and this is what's going to cost us. We need to get some more manufacturing, as in if it's an app, for example, it won't be manufacturing, but it will be something along the lines of actually delivering the concept or the next phase of investment into the actual IT infrastructure, the programming element. So then you'll say, company A has offered us £1,000 or £1,500, sorry, to get us to this stage. So your detailing analysis, very, very detailed at step 5 is very important. Okay, so both for the investor to see that there is clarity in this business, and also the invested for their clarity, as well as the proof that they're being open and honest. If I move to step 6, if I may. So this is basically, let's say if we look at it as an application, I'm sticking to the context of an app. Let's say it's a fitness app or something. So here, I would basically call this the development schedule. So we call this phases. So phase 1, I need to raise £5,000 and this is what I would like to do with it. Phase 2, I need a further £5,000. And again, you're already pointing at your step or stage 5, where you're looking at an exact spend detail on the finances. So you're referring back to this. So step 6 is saying, here's the development schedule. Here's the first phase, £5,000. And this is the exact breakdown of every £5,000 penny. Then phase 2 delivery. So we now have a concept that's deliverable. People can download it and they can start to interact with it. And now phase 2 is going to be to add features. So we're looking at revenue streams very quickly, and I can see a scheduled delivery, and I can see it being aligned with the money that's going to be paid into your system as it goes through. So if I can go with, if you don't mind, I can just go straight into step 7, which is very close to this, is also along with that is the key growth targets. That means growth in user base, if this was an application, but also growth in revenue stages. Could it be that we need to go the freemium model, which basically means use it for nothing, but some of the features could be chargeable? All this needs to be designed in the outset, and I need to see that as a schedule. So for tip 7 would be a key growth phase. Does that make sense of how the key growth targets are being met? By the end of 12 months, I should have phase 1 completed. By the end of 24 months, I'll have phase 2, and 36 months in phase 3. Very, very clearly prescribed. But by the way, this doesn't have to be pages and pages of information. This can be a very quick executive summary to explain, maybe 3 pages worth of all of these 10 points, because this is like a really, really interesting document for a quick investor, so they can see that. If I can move straight to tip 8, if that's okay, Gary?
Yeah, please do, because I want to know a little bit more about the marketplace here, because that must come into what you're looking at, surely.
Spot on. So actually, that's the next phase, Gary. So the next point is that I'm looking at market analysis. So step 8 is marketing analysis. What this means is a very, very quick but detailed, update with bullet points telling maybe the size of the market for your particular application, the potential downloads, if it was an app, for example, the data, where is it coming from? Is it from Forbes? Is it from Apple? Is it from Google? Where is this information coming from? Have you identified the actual growth curve of your particular industry? And also to ensure that you've partnered correctly with the right people so that they understand that this is genuinely honest and reliable information, that this product is actually going to be valuable to the open market. And really, it's kind of litmus testing in the marketing analysis that actually, or the market analysis, my apologies, in the market analysis, that there is a genuine need for what you've got to offer as a product. Which leads into, if you don't mind, I've only got 2 more steps to go, so if you don't mind, I'll just finish it off. Is that Gary?
Please do, Sukhi, please do.
So step 9, or tip 9, should I say, is you need to evidence to me the partners that you are going to be using to deliver your product to market. So this could be, if it's, let's say, for example, if it's an application for fitness, you might want to turn around and say, obviously, the delivery partner is going to be Apple or Google. But on the same token, what I'd love to see here is who is the user? Where is the user and who owns that user facilitation? Does this make sense? So this is the clarity we're trying to achieve here. So for example, if it's an application around fitness, is this going to be possibly a rebranded product, white label product for fitness gyms, so they can get people to use their knowledge in their own home, maybe that kind of thing. Through this lockdown period, people have been not going to gyms. Obviously, they're opening up this week, but the principle behind that is that they're, I think towards the end of this month, which is obviously where we are with July. But is this somewhere specifically that they can maybe call their own? They could be in the middle of a park and they could take their bike, or they could do their running there, or they could do their Zumba in a public open area as well. So my principle is that they could just open up the application and they could hear it and they could get themselves moving forward there as well. But if that's the case, who is that partner? Who is what is the call? What is the direct call to action, and which is the marketing strategy that you're going to be utilizing? Here, I would like to hark back to step 5 when we're talking about the financial details. It should be cleared in financial detail, saying that we have a partner designed for Facebook marketing, and this is the partner, this is the exact cost of what specifically they're going to do for us, and this is what it's going to cost me. And obviously then that also locks in with your phases, the actual targets and the development schedules, to ensure that your user base, your marketing, your cost base of income coming in, and payments schedules by the investor are all being met. So partners and how it integrates with your standard and with your structure. And I'm going to stop with just one more, if I may, Gary, bringing it to 10 tips. So in the 10th tip, we're talking about your 3-year growth plan. This is specifically around kind of like a projected vision based upon maybe, if it's an application, downloads, revenue, the tribe, in essence, the community, the offerings. So we're scheduling the spends in array with the offering itself, so that as the phases increase, it's going to be another 5,000, etc., etc. And at what point specifically I'd like to see here is, at what point will the actual investment itself become self-propelling? For example, the incomes coming in are going to equal the R&D, or actually exceed the research and development phases and expenses, so that the investor comes in with a £5,000 bubble to start off with. We hit phase 1, phase 2 maybe 5 again, and phase 3 maybe 5 again, so it's 15,000. But after phase 3, maybe the next increments are 10 or 20,000 pounds in costs, and the application or the business itself will have created a remuneration process to allow me to get that clear. So just to bring it all together, it actually assists you as the investor to know kind of like 10 section areas that you can actually really detail and analyze a business before you go into it. And on the other side, as the invested party, you'll be able to touch base with the brain and the mindset of the investor to say you're talking on the same level. There is one key element which is kind of hidden in the details, and it's in step 5 financial details, but in step 5 financial details / legals. This also means that, is your product actually secure? Is it trademarked? Is it copywritten? Is it secure in URLs? Is it planned with a legal contract and non-disclosure accounting system with all contracts with anybody who's working with you? Is the concept itself patented, if it needs one? And if so, where is that documentation? And you should have a reference to those documents in a form as well, so that the investor is fully assured that they're involved in this. And also, if you may just ask myself, in that same financials should be very, very, very clear, is I think it was step 4, which is tip 4, was the director's investment. It needs to be very clear that the director's invested X, and we're looking for X from you as the investor. And that's where the share remuneration and ownership has to be discussed as well. So step 4 also has the discussion of share remuneration and the ownership, meaning the actual ownership, directorship, the percentage of the company owned. And I'm going to say, if we come back to step 10, also I'd like to see in three years, what is the end potential? Are we thinking about creating this application then selling it? Or are we looking at creating the application and it's a residual ongoing growth curve? I hope that's helpful to everybody. And I don't want to take too much time because these are bite-sized chunks.
Absolutely amazing, Sukhi. Thank you very much for explaining how an investor looks at a new business. So folks, let's look at the power tip roundup. So in tip 1, we looked at clarity of vision. Does the business owner, the person who is requiring investment, do they actually know what they're looking for? Do they have a finger on the pulse? Do they exactly know their offering? And what is their clarity of what they're doing it and why? Tip 2 looks at the clarity of what they're supplying. Do you understand the problem that you are solving? And do you fully understand the solution that you've come up with? Then we look at point 3, which is with regards to who's in the business, who are the business team, the individuals, their psychometrics. You know, have we got the right person for the right job? The square peg for the square hole, as it were. Right person, right job. And actually we covered that in a Daily Tip Show, episode 5. In tip 4, we look at the director's actual investment. How much has this business owner actually invested in their product? How committed are they to their product, their idea? What seed capital have they put forward? And as Sukhi just alluded to, as a result of the share ownership, what share ownership percentage are we going to be looking at? In tip 5, we then came to the financials. Not just financials, but also the legals. So when you're setting up a product, if it's something completely new, have you got the right patents in place to protect you? Have you got the right trademarks in place to protect you and your product? With regard to the financials, how much is going into the business? Are you asking for, as Sukhi gave figures, is most of the percentage that you're looking for to pay your wages, or is it to actually go towards the product and development of that product, the R&D and testing? Then we came to step 6. Step 6 was about the development schedule. What are the phases of spend and development? And these must align with the financials we've just talked about. That then comes to step 7, tip 7, which is about the key growth targets and phases. Have you got set phases? What are you going to be doing after 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months? So we talked about the product. Then we went on to tip 8, which looked at the marketing analysis. So what's the size of the market? Where have you been? What have you got? Who are your market? Where's the data coming from? Then we looked at the marketing strategies. How are you going to get your product out there? Who are you using? Who is transporting it? Who are your partners in this business to help you? And then finally, something that brings it all together is the 3-year growth plan. What extra expenditure am I likely as an investor to need or require to give you? What are those phases that are coming through? Ideally, when is this product going to be financially viable and to wipe its own face? And when will R&D costs be covered by the expenditure? I do hope you found this element today, these 10 tips, vital as an investor. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, follow Sukhi on his official social media channel, SukhiWahiwala Official. Remember to look at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. And remember, please share this information with your friends, your family, and anybody that might find it useful. Until next time, take care and bye-bye from myself and Sukhi.